So I think we'll get started. Welcome to the third webinar of the Assessing in Games-Based Approaches 40th Anniversary webinar series. Throughout this session, I will be adding into the chat box where you can look at previous webinars that we've held, including the recordings, and also where you can find out other TGfU SIG 40th anniversary events. We would be very happy if you could join us and support us in those other events as well. Today, Dr. Naoki Suzuki will be presenting on the Game Contribution Assessment Instrument. And throughout this presentation, I may be messaging some of you just to ask about your certificate of attendance, what name you would like to include, and any email addresses so that you can ensure that you get that certificate of attendance. So without further ado, Dr. Naoki Suzuki, everybody.
Thank you for introducing me there. So good evening, everyone. So good afternoon, good morning. I'm Naoki Suzuki from Tokyo Gakugei University. This is my second time speaking. It is a pleasure to meet you all. So March is the last month of school in Japan. We have been busy with grading. In the business of this grading process, we tend to focus on grading students efficiently. In today's webinar, I hope to allow you to question the nature of assessment once again. So I will now share my screen and so talk about my topic with the help of slides. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, so I lectured the framework of learning assessment in game-based approaches in my first webinar. Last week, Dr. Mitchell presented a webinar on game performance assessment instrument, and I believe it was an excellent learning opportunity with very active questions. Today, I would like to talk about game contribution assessment instrument as a comprehensive assessment for game-based approaches. If you have any questions, please send them to me via chat. Okay, please see the slide. So it's today's agenda. Initially, I will briefly review the learning assessment in GBAs as a confirmation. After that, I will explain the game contribution assessment instrument. Then I will talk about using highly comparative technologies with game contribution assessment instrument. So traditionally, games lessons are structured around the learning of specific skills. However, the alternative teaching approaches have been brought forward in the literature, such as the teaching games for understanding, the tactical games model, play practice, the tactical decision learning model, and so game sense. All these approaches suggest a reversal of the skill-first process to teaching games. Instead, teaching is driven by the need for contextual real world. Games simulated practice to develop game knowledge and understanding across the world. Game-based approaches are becoming a central part of game teaching. So GBAs can be considered in the contrast to skill-based approaches. Traditionally, so teaching has been based on repetitive individual and group skills. So used to execute them. This is based on a behaviorist view of learning, based on dualism, and can be said to have been so instructor-centered, drill-centered teaching. So however, in GBAs, so we believe that game performance can be improved in the game. And we teach students to understand the play and improve their skills in the game. This is based on a constructivist view of learning, based on monism, and so can be described as learner-centered, gameplay-centered teaching. In other words, game performance is improved through exposure to the fun of the games. So therefore, it is essential to design games that encourage learning. In other words, it is not enough to provide learners with official games, but teachers need to develop games that are modified according to learners' abilities to deepen their learning. In addition, traditional learning was based on the teacher giving directions and the learners following them to practice. On the other hand, in GBA, learners work independently to solve problems. Therefore, the role of the teacher is to encourage awareness by asking questions. Then the learners themselves solve the problems and so become independent learners. The following is concrete explanation of the learning process using a video clip. So I am going to show you the sequence of game-based approaches from the beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson. So TGfU consists of 6 steps. The lessons I'm about to show you that follow this format. I am going to show you this. So, oh sorry. I am going to show you a lesson for 15 minutes. I edited it for around 5 minutes. This is my teaching for college students, as if the students were junior high school students. The class started with a game, not a practice session. This is a small-sided game. So similar to the invasion games, the code is intentionally long and narrowed. This makes it difficult to pass the ball and remind the students of the importance of support. The rules of this game were so simple. So however, the player did not understand how to cooperate effectively. Players could not pass the ball accurately. The turnovers were repeated during the game. In the first game, no one was able to score. It was difficult for my students to play in this kind of the game. So when the first game was over, I repeated the questions based on the gameplay. Instead of giving them tasks, I asked them questions that delved into their thinking and helped them articulate the needs that needed to be solved in them. They answered the challenge that they did not pass well. So then they realized that the place to make a pass was where there was no space for opponents between teammates. They defined this as an appropriate space for themselves. The challenge was to move into this suitable space and support it. So they played a game to solve the challenge. So this is a drill game. So the attacker touched the free cone and the defense protected it from being touched. A cone is considered the same as a free space, and the goal is to get it to handle quickly. Through this activity, the player realized that the appropriate space was created. In other words, so the suitable area was not objectively there, but was constructed there in the relationship. So then, I explained about so task game now. So they play the games by expanding the court to solve this challenge to make it easier to move around. So once they play the game, so they reflected on it and so repeated this repeatedly. So game, reflection, game, reflection. So they do many games and reflections. So then in the end, so they play the same game as they did at the beginning. This was also a performance assessment situation. Surprisingly, some students emerged to play the screens to help their teammates to move into space and get the ball. They showed no such behavior in the first game. Instead, so their movements had become quicker, and they could connect with the ball and score goals, as well as getting better at attacking. They were also getting better at defending, and it was clear that all players were getting better throughout playing the game. They appreciated the changes they made after the game due to being aware of the way they worked together and the quality of their play. In the end, they looked back and connected to the next learning session. The game is a teacher. Teaching is a meaningful connection between the game and the player. So learning assessment is defined as a process in which changes that occur through learning are judged according to specific criteria, and how to proceed with learning and teaching is considered. In other words, if the instructional plan is like a map of teaching practice, then learning assessment is about identifying where the learners are on the map. So repeated learning assessment creates a history of learning on the learning map. In other words, learning assessment does not function as a value judgment of the learning results, but as something that demonstrates the pedagogical nature in the continuum of learning. Therefore, I think it is necessary to reaffirm that evaluation is essential in making classes. Based on the above, I would like to explain the critical points of assessment in the game-based approaches. So I explained the 4 key points of assessment in the game-based approaches, such as on the slide at the first webinar. So point 1 is to assess students in the game, not a skill test. Point 2 is to assess on the ball skill and of the ball movement. Point 3 is to assess game performance while linking skill execution and decision making. Point 4 is to build the criteria through the gameplay. It has been argued that for performance assessment in games, focus on the individual is inappropriate, as individual performance is crucially affected by the capacities and motivations of other players. As I mentioned, that developing the international trend for teaching board games is via game-based approaches. In these approaches, assessment of performance within the game context is advocated. So arguably, the most cognized assessment tool used to assess game performance is the game performance assessment instrument. The GPAI focuses on the individual's actions in modified game. Still, we suggest it does not adequately assess the individual's contribution to the team. The GBAI is comprised of 7 elements. 1, decision making. 2nd, skill execution. 3rd, adjust. 4th, cover. 5th, support. 6th, guard and mark. And 7, base. So any number of combination of elements can be assessed to provide a measure of game performance. However, it is often difficult for assessors to complete accurate contextual performance assessments due to the observation and recording challenges. Thus, the GCAI was developed. So GCAI focuses on the nature of participation according to the specific situation and the context within which it occurs. Thus, both teachers and students are engaged in the assessment process, where measures of overall game participation are interpreted according to the individual's ability within the game context and game situations. So performance is also viewed holistically without emphasis on the constructualized learning segments. So Suzuki asserted that GCAI could be considered a more authentic assessment of game performance due to assessing each player's contribution within specific situational and contextual game challenges. The use of GCAI can further engage players and athletes in the assessment process, thus aiding the teaching and the learning process. But it was still unclear whether or not to promote tactical understandings. Therefore, I am going to introduce a simple player-centered assessment instrument based on a game contribution assessment instrument. So in the new assessment, the problem solving and assessment setting are closely related. First, we will begin by clarifying the contribution standards that are the key to GCAI. In other words, making a standard is essential. The standard then also thinks about their game, looks back at the game, and so clarifies the contribution that the game seeks in relation to tactical challenges. The new assessment presumed that students create standards. I will explain about this assessment method. So based on my first webinar, yes. So I have already introduced this lesson. So, okay, please see the video clip. It is set to stop shooting every 20 seconds. After taking a video, the cameraman saves it if it is essential to look back on it. Deletes it if they believe it is unnecessary and shoots repeatedly. So through these thoughts, tactical awareness and tactical understanding will deepen. Then look back at the video. So they have taken as a group and look back on their game. So in this way, the game videotaping the game and the game review are repeated to clarify the standard of contribution in the game. After repeating it to some extent, they write it down on the digital whiteboard and so assess it. Yes. So according to the students' reflections, they had positive feelings about implementing this assessment instrument, and so had a great feeling that it was being used. In addition, since assessment is performed according to criteria based on their own needs, more than 80% of students described episodes that lead to clear assessment perspectives and use assessment information to improve performance. So furthermore, so before they use this assessment, Many students thought it was not easy to do this, but many respondents said it was easy to work thanks to the assessment flow after the generation of standards. So by reviewing the video, they could think again about what they were thinking about. So still, there was an opinion that so the assessing what they were assessing here with their friends, and we would help them develop their assessment ability. So many students responded that tactical understanding was used and improved performance. This new assessment instrument promoted tactical understanding and so understood that the performance was improved. I would like to propose a game commentary assessment as a way to assess tactical understanding and so also to assess performance. I developed the game commentary assessment based on the game contribution assessment instrument. So this assessment is designed to help them to be actively involved in the assessment, understand the game, and improve their game performance. This is an assessment by students for students. I believe that the game is often conducted in a confined space, and so limited number of players are involved in the game in physical education classes. In particular, in TGfU, small-sided games are often implemented, and while the court is small, the number of players is also tiny. Therefore, I think that there are few observers of the game. And for the game observers, I believe that the time is often used as a break or just a time to cheer on the teammates. So therefore, the game commentary assessment we have developed connects this time of observation deeply. Sorry. Yes, the assessment is performed by the person who is filming the player and the person who is observing the game, injecting the game description into the video. This seems to be a live broadcast of baseball, but it is possible to interpret the play and assessment it better if the standard of contribution is clear. The game commentary assessment will record the game with commentary by the observers watching the game based on their tactical understanding. So would you please watch a video? It's just 30 seconds. So sorry for the commenting in Japanese on the video clip. Please see the subtitles. So I put the subtitles in English. So the observer becomes like a commentator. So this assessment is deeply connected to the learning content. In other words, the game commentary will be based on tactical awareness and so understanding. And the game commentary is an act of learning assessment. The results of the assessment can be shared with the team for subsequent learning. So therefore, the game commentary assessment is an assessment method that is inextricably so linked to education. The learners all responded that they thought it would be difficult to do before conducting this assessment. However, when they did it, they said it was surprisingly easy because they had a clear idea of what they needed to do in the game before they did it. This fact shows that whether observers can do it or not is an indicator of whether they have a tactical understanding or not. Furthermore, the students responded that they noticed changes in themselves, while commenting on the project indicates that they valued the fact that they have changed through learning. In this way, the players are reflected, assessed, and improved on the content assessed by others in the video. As described above, it was suggested that the game commentary assessment is an effective assessment method for problem solving that can be utilized for teaching and learning. On the other hand, it has a vital aspect of being subjective assessment, and there were challenges in valuing and judging the comments. In other words, it can be said that this assessment needs to improve to link assessment to grading. I would like to improve this issue and define it as a better assessment in the future. I propose two new assessment tools using the contribution indicators for GBAs. As a result, by using ICT, to create a unique communication style, I developed an excellent assessment instrument that integrated problem solving and assessment. So these tools can be used, and it is assumed that it can be used in elementary and secondary schools. So please watch this video. Usually, so when you are courtside watching a game, you can observe the game like this. This is a video shot from the sky using a drone. You can see the same scene. Also, it is the same playing scene. So the result of your thought may be different. It is easier to understand empty spaces in the video shot with a drone from above. Yes, shooting the directly below from above makes it easier to determine the position of the players. It is also easy to see how the players are related. The automatic piloting function also simplifies operation and makes it possible to use the system in the lesson. The batteries will last for about 15 minutes. And so if we take it down and replace the batteries after filming one game, 3 batteries will be enough to film a class for 45 minutes to an hour. So filming games in the gym is more manageable than outside because it is not affected by the window. However, the ceiling is low, and so we can shoot from high up, so which is not good. So instead, we can project the images filmed by the drone in real time on a large monitor like this. The students then watch the video and so evaluate the game performance using a contribution indicator. So then so they also use what they have assessed play in the game. This type of evaluation and so play is repeated to enable the student to learn and deepen his or her skills. this is a drone. So this type of drone is very small, just 199 grams. This is a part of the study card. So sorry, it is written in Japanese. The students checked their contributions and their success or failure, and then filled in tactics on the board to cooperate in a more contributing way. So since the drone video is shot from above, it is possible to provide images similar to the game situation. They imagine when thinking on the whiteboard. Thus, drone footage can also help evaluate the contribution made by the play based on these tactics. In fact, in this lesson, the students played, so improved in particular, so they were positioning changes, and the students spread out wide to play, and they began to devise support plays. In this way, the assessment GCAI can better facilitate learning. In addition, drone images can be sent to a tablet where thoughts can be visualized by lighting where to aim or to hit the ball or how to defend on it correctly. So by comparing these thoughts with the actual image, it is possible to evaluate the thoughts' appropriateness and the contribution to the game. So this study card was created on a Jamboard. So it was implemented in a net and wall type game. So a unit for fifth graders. 3 observers each wrote on their tablets on a Jamboard shared by 3 students. So once one checked the role in carrying the ball out, the other wrote down the ball's trajectory and so how the attacker delivered the ball to the opponent. Yet, so another checked the defender's position when the ball was sent out, and so whether or not a goal was scored at that time. So these 3 students' information was combined and united to make a card like a slide. In their reflections, learners synthesized these 3 pieces of information to evaluate their play and so thought about the future. Being able to connect on the network allowed each observer to evaluate the game in their role. As a result, so this practice promoted tactical awareness and so deepened tactical understanding. So, this is a practical example of net and wall type game units. So students competed for points by connecting and so returning the ball to the opponent's court without dropping it in this game. Based on the actual situation of the students, the toss was not a volley, but a throw up. They played unfolds as shown in the video on the slide. At this time, so each student observing the game had a tablet to watch the game. Then at the side of the court, they wrote down the data in their assigned roles. So after the game, based on what was written, they evaluated their contribution to the game and discussed how to cooperate in the next game. So teachers also assessed the students' contribution based on their game and their recordings and judged all students on 3-point scale of free, satisfactory, or inadequate. So social network service is a significant information tool for today's youth. Its use can also be applied to physical education teaching. For example, the tools shown in the slide are available. Okay, so this is a class timeline, and the students will post here. Unfortunately, the outside parties will not be able to see it. As shown here, a student will post tips, reflections, etc., along with images and videos. This is a social networking like a specification. So the video comparison function allows students to select 2 videos in the Club Cloud and compare them. They can superpose them with transparency to enable more profound through the trial and error. And so they can also be attached directly to video captured as a comment. This allowed for the easy to understand the explanation. And let's look for the post they just liked and commented on. You could find it right away by keywords such like this. So they will receive notifications such as comments addressed to you personally as shown here. In addition, they will also receive notification of a statement made by others in the class, allowing for transparent operation. Technology that makes it possible to evaluate and apply the results to one's learning in this way. So teachers will also be able to see changes in students are thinking in the process of their interactions. Yes, we utilized this assessment in our striking and fielding game unit. They are competing to see who will reach their destination first, the runner or ball carrier. We had evaluators focus on how they contributed to this competitive objective. This is a mutual assessment. Students uploaded their evaluations on the social networking site. So other student refers to it and comment on each other's comment. So teachers were also encouraged to write words. So focusing on their contributions. So as a result, game performance was improved as they gave direct advice and wrote something on the social networking site based on the evaluation results, based on their contributions. In addition, teachers commented as much as possible on students who had a few comments and tried to elicit comments from other students. I have developed a media portfolio. So this is an organized evaluation document that combines various helpful information about the performance demonstrated. Sorry. Yes, the portfolio that's on the slide is written in Japanese, but it was created by the student posting a video of their learning outcomes and self-assessing them. the student takes this home and share it with their parents. So parents who see it write comments on this portfolio. They then share it with the teacher and students. So portfolio conferences are essential for better portfolios. So this is a forum for discussion using a portfolio. So it is more important to let the students talk about what they think than to convey the teacher's judgment in the portfolio conference, in the dialogues. So confront each other's evaluations and set the next task that both parties agree on. So in other words, so it is a place to orient the students' learning and to train the students' self-assessment skills. This is done at the beginning in the middle of a unit. And so after each stage of learning, there is a dialogue between the students and the teacher, between the students and each other, and between the students and their parents and community members. So this is a portfolio conference among students and so between students and teachers. So this is a portfolio conference among students and so between students and teachers. So this is a portfolio, so portfolio presentation to parents and community members. I believe game contribution assessment instrument fits to the portfolio. So using the technology that. So media portfolio is my word. So I made this word because media portfolio is different from the e-portfolio, electric portfolio. So I focus on sharing their outcomes with parents and local community members. So finally, so I would like to briefly tell you my conclusions. So the game contribution assessment instrument emphasizes a comprehensive set of assessment standards and an interpretive approach to evaluation. So based on these standards, so students then clarify the criteria through their assessment initiatives. They then use the assessments to advance their learning while establishing it on those criteria. So similarly, teachers will set criteria based on the comprehensive standards and then improve their instruction based on those criteria. In response to students' learning situations, this improvement in teaching includes game modifications and questioning. Thus, the GCAI is an assessment for learning and teaching rather than a ranking of students. Grading should be based on the history of this assessment. For this purpose, a portfolio is beneficial and should be used to assess that work. And technology should be actively used in conducting these assessment activities. I would like to propose that the primary focus of assessment in GBA should be to function as something that improves learning and teaching, not for the sake of scoring. Okay, so that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your kind attention. So do you have any questions?
Thank you for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Please put your questions in the chat box, or please put your hand up or start speaking and we'll answer anything that you've got. Are there any questions? Okay, there's one in the chat box. Have you used the GCAI for research purposes?
Oh, research purpose. Yes, I have already done some researches regarding with game-based game contribution assessment instrument. So I researched about the impact of the game contribution assessment instrument for the student learning. That was good, and but so it was a little bit hard for the teachers to incorporate this idea into the PE, especially the novice teachers.
Any other questions?
I'm wondering if I can ask a question.
Oh, Karen.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have my video on. I'm calling from my phone.
Thank you for coming to my webinar.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for your presentation. You have me thinking about so many ideas, and one of the things I really am interested in understanding with the portfolio, when you share that with parents, how does it help parents understand like the value of physical education? Do you think that parents are appreciating physical education and understanding more about what their children are learning? Like, what have you seen the benefit to parents be?
Oh, thank you, thank you for the very good question. So, I have already talked about portfolio conference. So, teacher they invited parents to join a portfolio conference in the school. So, teachers explain about physical education, and also the students explain about their PE learning for the parents. And so after the bringing the portfolio to the home, so students have to explain about their portfolio using the presentation. Then teacher parents could understand how to learn, and what to learn in PE. So you know that my doctoral student, Mr. Ishii, so he researched about parents perception, the changes of the parents' perception. That's better. So portfolio conference has a big impact for the parents' perception. We have to incorporate the portfolio conference into the between units sometimes in a year, maybe twice.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that the way that you're talking about assessment for learning and the way that we're seeing really the learning as a social process and the sharing of what students know it's such an important area for us to really consider as we move forward with game-based learning. I think that there's just so much to uncover about understanding how, when students talk about what they are learning and they talk with informed others, how that contributes to their understanding. So I really applaud you for the work that you're doing. And I've learned so much today. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's another question. Can you give some advice on how to conduct a learning session in 1 hour without using as many gadgets or technologies, especially in rural areas?
Oh, rural area です。Oh. Yes. What I'm so sorry. The gadget. What means gadget? So Erin, so can you explain about gadgets?
I'm thinking it's to do with sort of digital technology, electronic devices. Farihan, is that what you're trying to interpret there?
Yeah, that's fine. So if so, so they don't have any technology there, so it's okay. So observation is very important. So they should improve the observing skill for the assessment. And so I recommend teachers to set up the good criteria for the assessment, and so they have to do the better observation. That's very important. And and also they have to
there's
make
another
a
one.
good. Oh, sorry.
I think it's sort of the opposite of that. Can you provide some more discussion about the SNS collaborative assessment and how you use some of the IT apps that were shown in some of the slides?
That's your question. So Erin, so I'm so sorry that I couldn't hear your question. So.
Okay. I'm just looking in the chat box. Somebody has mentioned about the SNS collaborative assessment, and can you share some of your discussions about the ICT apps that were shown in the slides? I think we've sort of had this discussion of how do you apply the assessment without electronic devices, and how are you applying it more with?
Yeah, so that is a free application. So I can send you the link for this application. So Erin, so can you post the link on the website?
Yes, I can.
That's fine. So everyone can access to the application. So Club Cloud. That Club Cloud is like social network service for the learning. It's very beneficial for the teaching in the GBA. And also I introduced Jamboard. So Jamboard, so many people know the Jamboard. It's very easy for the teacher to use Jamboard for the collaborative assessment. And also I introduced media portfolio there. So you can use many applications. So for example, the PowerPoint, Android Notes, and Google Documents, and Google Slide, and many applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, clarifications, etc.? I will, of course, be taking the recording of this video and be uploading it onto our website later on this week. I will also add the lecture slides on there as well, so that you can see them and explore further about these digital applications as well. Just got time for any more last-minute questions? Anything? Anyone want to say anything?
If so, you have any questions, please send me the questions with email.
I'll add the email address onto our website as well.
Yeah, I put my email address on the chat box now. Okay.
Thank you. I have mentioned in the chat box as well that certificates of attendance will be going out later today. If you don't receive one or there's any issues, can you please contact the tgfu.info@gmail.com and I will send it out to you by the end of the weekend if you don't receive it later today. I think we'll round it up there. Thank you, Dr. Suzuki, for presenting today. Thank you everybody for attending. Please do check out our other webinars and our other 40th anniversary events. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next time.
Yes, next week, so Karen will have a presentation, so webinar. I look forward to joining the Karen's webinar. Everyone, thank you.